Period.
All right, for this week's discussion, choose a children's book that supports mathematical learning. Design a math lesson for your students around the book you select. The lesson should include the following, and then the following. I will not read through all of that. So what have we chosen, ladies?
Three Little
Three Little
Pigs.
Pigs.
There we go. Let me see. Okay. The name of the lesson, what will you do? What the children will do, how you will end the lesson, how will you assess whether children learned what you intended to teach?
Lesson, what will you do?
So for my lesson, I'm going to do little felt characters of the three pigs. And I'm going to introduce them before we read the story. And we're going to count the pigs together. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, and we're going to move them over as we count. That's my contribution. Next.
For pre-K, we actually did something that was like Little Pig related, and it's not like super mathy, but we did a storyboard. So it basically was like math, but it also included literacy. We did the storyboard, and they had to cut out the pieces at the bottom and then like put which house was blown down first, which house was blown down second, which house was blown down third. So they're still getting those math concepts in after they read the book.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I can't see. For the title of the book, I would just probably, or the title of the book, the title of the lesson, I would just call it Three Little Pigs. And then what I would do, I would have like individual like shapes cut out. So I would have like a square cut out, a circle, a triangle, and then like a rectangle. And I would have the kids actually make like their own little houses and pretend to like make it for like the little pigs. And the children will be learning about different shapes and just being able to like recognize different shapes. And then I would just have the lesson end by us just going over like what shapes we had. And then I would just assess them based on their knowledge that they had before we did it about like different shapes, and then their knowledge at the end, what shapes they knew at the end that they didn't know at the beginning.
Yeah, everything you all said, great ideas. I will just make it Three Little Pigs hands-on as much as I can. We'll count the pigs. It could be like felt pigs or the toy pigs. And then we'll see how many wolves are there. We could do so many things. Do we have more pigs in our story, or do we have more wolves in the story? We could just connect math to anything we do, and counting the pigs one on one, like how Crystal said, like one pig and the second pig and the third pig. So much to do.
And for my activity, I would do a sequence and activity like Marissa's, where they would have to put the pigs by the house, which house is blown down first, and then put them in order.
Yeah, I feel like what we did in my classroom, because it's funny, we were actually on the Three Little Pigs like last week. I swear, I feel like I've read so many different versions of that book. So like literally it's been like a combination of what all of you have said. We've done a lot of sequencing, we've done acting it out, cutting of the shapes, things like that. So literally it's like a combination of what everyone has said thus far.
I would agree with that, Desiree. I have seen so many different versions of the book, and my kids are to the point where they're bored with a lot of the original. So I really had to think outside the box, and something I just did within the last month with one of our books is the Three Little Pigs and the Architect. So it brings in math and science. And one of the activities, I can't remember what I called it, but I will call this one, Can Your House Blow Down?
Mm-hmm.
So I just put out materials on the table like the wooden sticks. We had cotton balls. I actually have little itty bitty bricks. We use Play-Doh and other construction materials, and the kids were able to make their own houses. And then they were able to try and blow to see if their houses would withstand the air or if they would fall over. And then for me to be able to assess them, we touched base on retelling the story before we did it, And then we compared how this story was the same as the other story and how it was different. And that's how we did our lesson plan.
Yeah, I was thinking that would be neat to do something like that, like make little, like, you know, how we have, I think you guys would have it too, but block areas.
Mhm.
So one of them, you know, the heaviest block, that could be your brick. And then you could have like a paper one, and then you could collect sticks from outside and try to build with those type deal and see which one would take the most effort to knock down.
Right.
All right, we covered like the first one.
Yeah, you guys ready for the second?
Okay, so how can children's math readiness be supported through talk? Also, as an educator, how can you model mathematical language in the classroom?
You could talk about more less than, and I would also say, like, you know, are there more pigs now, or are there more houses, or are there less houses? And then you could talk about how, if like the number is getting bigger, or if the number is getting smaller. And you could even say, like, you know, you took away like maybe one of the pigs, or you added one of the pigs back on. So you're using that different language, and they're seeing it through talking, and they're also seeing it as like you model it in the classroom.
So
The
I was
other
actually, oh, go ahead, Carmelita.
The other ways that you could do with spatial words, like in, on, off, up, down. So helps them get in the language of spatial relations, front, back, even when you're lining them up, you know, line up behind the line, you know, line up, you know, stand in front of or next to. So that gives them spatial relation words.
That's a good idea. Wait.
I was actually in first grade today, and I subbed for our first grade teacher, and she did a game where it was called Double It Up. So the children were given dice, and they had to double every number that they got, and then they colored it on their sheet. It's kind of like a big tic-tac-toe. Even doing that gets their math readiness,
Mhm.
I think, supported through talk, only because like you do have to do mental math. But what I started to do while I was playing the game with all of them is they would roll like a 2, and I'd say, okay, 2 + 2 is what? And then they would start doing it, and then they all would constantly repeat it without saying it. So they'd roll 4, and they'd speak out loud. 4 + 4 is, and like even that like helps them. Plus it helps
Right.
their math, which I think a lot of kids struggle with.
Right.
That's what we kind of do in my class too. Like, you know, I'm in preschool, so I mean, we're not quite there with addition and stuff. We're like kind of dabbling with it.
Yeah.
However, we like play this game where it's like color by numbers. So like we have a dice, and like we'll roll it, and then we'll like show the dice to the kids, and they'll be like 4, and then we'll be like, okay, find the 4 on your paper and color it. So like they'll find all the 4s that are on the sheet and color it a certain color or whatnot. So
Sure. In our pre-K classroom, we do attendance every day. We count the kids who are at home, who are at
Yeah.
school, and do we have more kids at home? Do we have less kids at school? So that gets ready. That's get them ready for the math too. That's like everyday math they do, and they get masters of it. Like,
mhm.
For us in the twos room, we usually do, it's very fluid, but it's more the spatial awareness. Today we did hide and seek. So I counted to 5, and then I counted to 10, and I would have the kids help me count. So just building up their confidence within numbers, not necessarily counting anything, but it's kind of like singing the ABCs, right? They might not be able to identify those letters, but just getting it into their heads seems to work well. So then when I'd find them, I'd say, look, Gael is behind the chair. Matthias is under the table. Oh my goodness, Violet, you are up on the chair, you know, just different words, but giving them that vocabulary. So it's very subtle in my room, but still building upon what I can.
Even doing calendar with the kids in the morning.
I
I
was
know
just
a
gonna
lot of
say
the
that.
classes that I've subbed in, they focus on calendar and they take calendar time, and even doing that helps the kids learn math. And like you're talking most of the time, but like the kids talk about the numbers, what day it is today, and then they count the numbers. And it's like you have math in everything that you do,
Right.
and especially like in preschool. And it's easy for the kids to like see that when you like integrate it easily into your classroom, even if it's something that you don't think is to do with math.
Like,
Mhm.
right. Oh, even like when the kids like line up, you could be like, you know, your first, second, third, and they're
Mhm.
understanding like the order.
Yeah, mine starts off in the morning. We do a wish well, which is where the kids get to do attendance with me. And they get to place their picture on the side of the kids who are here, those that are not here. Then we count and compare, and then they sing their little wish well song for the ones who aren't there. Always using spatial recognition for whatever we're doing. Especially when you're trying to explain or give directions. Like, I want you to pick up the green ball behind the blue basket or in
Mhm.
front of. I like to get out the bean bags, and we have this little trampoline that sits at an angle. And then I have the kids throw it and it'll bounce off, and then I'll ask them, did it land behind the tape or in front of the tape? Did it land beside the chair? Or so on and so forth. So I just think, like you said, using those words and modeling them all the time really helps them pick up on that. And then Jim Gill is my favorite. He does a lot of finger plays, and I think it's called One from the Left. And so essentially it starts with one from the left, one from the right. They came together and they danced all night. So, and then they both went away, and then it says those two. And then I always come back and say, because 1 + 1 is, and my kids are like 2. So, and it goes all the way up to 5 on each side, and then you get to 10. So that is something that they really love. And he has a lot of great counting songs that go with a lot of great movements. So that's what I have to add right there.
Great job.
Thanks,
All right, I mean,
You're
do we
good.
cover it?
I think we did.